And together we form the objective of bringing land forward and creating the development platform and removing barriers towards bringing residential development forward. And we've been going now, as I say, for 3 years. The things we do around land, we bring public sector land together with private sector land. We do planning around master planning. We help with planning through our local authority planning processes. And we link developments into funding. So you'll probably come across the Greater Manchester Fund. There were some developments that announced their funding through Greater Manchester Fund, and also the Homes and Communities Agency funding for development across these sites. The last part we bring together, and I think this is a really important part, is market intelligence. So we're able to use the City Council's market data, stuff that isn't available out there into the market, match that with the market intelligence that we pick up with talking with guys like you, and bring that together to form a big picture of the market across Greater Manchester and Manchester city centre. And I'm going to talk a little bit more now about the city centre marketing that we do. You'll have heard a lot in the last couple of days around affordable housing and affordability. Part of the work we've done on that intelligence is to work out that question of how much affordable housing do we need? How much homes do we need that are affordable to people who are working in our city? And more importantly, how much of our high-end, high-value homes that we need across the city that people on higher incomes want to buy and actually can afford. So there's a whole issue around affordable houses versus homes that are affordable to the different income types that we have across the city. We started 3 years ago. We identified 3 gateways. We are going to have to rebrand Northern Gateway because there's now more than one Northern Gateway in Greater Manchester. But as we develop that one, we will, I'm absolutely sure, apply new branding to it. What we're seeing now in Manchester is significant growth, and you will have seen the shots of cranes across Manchester and the city centre. There are now 50 developments on site in the whole of Manchester, and in the city centre alone, 27 developments delivering 5,000 properties into the market. That, just putting that into context, is a 400% increase on 2014-15 when Manchester Place was formed. I'm not saying we've delivered all of that, but that was when we were formed. We expect 2,000 of these properties to be completed in the next financial year, and by 2018-19 we expect to see about 3,500 of those properties coming into the market. So those are big numbers, and I know people are a little bit concerned of, have we got enough now? Do we start on the next phases of development planning and bringing more stock forward? Well, it's a question we've asked ourselves, and I'll go back to the market intelligence. We are absolutely convinced that what we're now building is simply taking up the latent demand that has built up over the last 7 or 8 years when the supply just hasn't been there. What we're seeing in the city centre is phenomenal growth of our population. We've based our population estimates on really good data, and we're very confident. We were right in predicting where our population's been going for the last 10 years. So we're very confident that the numbers that we're now talking about, just in that city centre alone, we expect by 2024 to get to a population level of 80,000 people. That's an additional 26,000 people in just 7 years, and has effectively double the city centre population. That's the reason why we're so confident, and we're seeing it manifesting itself in lots of different ways across the city. The buzz that's going on, the cafe life. We're also seeing it in phenomenally low void rates across the city. 0.4% void rate in one period that we examined across the city, which is it's virtually nil. There are no available properties. We're also, in my lifetime, I'm seeing occupational rates increase, increasingly by people sharing, but increasingly by people actually want to look for the next move. Where are they going to move on to next? Which gives us that confidence around demand. No presentation's complete without a slide. What we've translated all of that as even a slide, a graph even. We've complemented all that data by putting our projections now into graph form, which show our existing stock expanding as new build comes into line over the years, together with where the yellow banding is the amount of stock we're adding each year from the pipeline that we know about. The very top banding is where we're seeing unfulfilled demand and where the shortfall is. And we estimate that that is about, at the moment, 2,000 homes a year, a shortfall between what we know is in the pipeline and is already built. And it demonstrates to us, and again, talking with market colleagues, that there is a massive undersupply and an ongoing undersupply in the market. One area that's of real interest that wasn't really mentioned on the earlier presentation, and that's around the demand for owner occupation. We are absolutely seeing increased demand now for owner occupation, as well as the market rent and the higher value market rent in the city. So we've established the city as a new global centre. We've got some fantastic development on site now. I'm at the risk of annoying people whose developments are on site. I'm going to mention a couple. Owen Street, it's going to be one of the biggest tower in Manchester, indeed in Europe, a 64-storey residential tower. We've got purpose-built PRS being built through Patrizia on the one estate, and we've got Buckley Properties bringing forward residential, and of course a whole list of other PRS coming through, not least of which is Manchester Life. And you'll have heard Manchester Life being talked about yesterday by Sir Howard and Marty Edelman. Brilliant delivery on a concept that is now actually very real on the ground. We will be delivering just short of 1,000 new properties through Manchester Life in the new Islington area of the city. And we think that is now well underway and will be extending out eastwards through the Eastern Gateway. So that brings me on to where's our next big area. I'm sure people in the room will be very excited and know about the Northern Gateway, which we will rebrand, I'm sure. But the Northern Gateway, there's a great opportunity in the Northern Gateway. And Manchester Place has worked very closely with landowners, and we've started to work across the Northern Gateway, which is an area that starts to the north of the city with Victoria Station, and then extends out northwards bounded by the Red Line with districts like New Cross, out to Collyhurst, which is a very big social rented estate owned by the council, but very spread out, very land-hungry estate, and loads of potential for redevelopment. Where we fly through now, I just reassure people this is not green belts. This is in a city centre environment. It looks very green as we fly through it, but what it will start to unravel is actually what a massive opportunity this area is. There's existing parkland in it, not very well used. There's a Metrolink stop with a connection straight into the city centre. There is already apartment living, and I'm sure if Tom was here, he'd recognise instantly his 3 blocks there, the Pankhurst blocks. We've then got a really big area with a river basin running right the way through it. Great ideas. We're not thought about draining the river yet, but that was an idea came up this morning. But huge potential for loads of surface car parking area. What this gives us is that opportunity to create a new neighbourhood and a completely replanned neighbourhood around those natural assets and the closeness to that city centre. And where we're dropping down now is just outside the Northern Gateway into an area called Angel Meadow, which again is one of those quality park areas very close into the city centre with land surrounding it. What we have done is procured through a process together with a co-op, a significant investor partner to start and bring forward some development on Angel Meadow. And that's the Far East Consortium. Now, unfortunately, Gavin was going to step up at this point and speak, so I'm going to stand in for Gavin and just talk very briefly around FEC. FEC is a world-class investor. It's an international investor, and it invests in China, it invests in Australia, and it also has a significant hotel chain called Dorset Hotel. And we're very positive about where that might lead to in the not-too-distant future. So hotels and significant development in Canary Wharf in London. So we're really looking forward, and I've actually not seen the plans now, so I'm going to be really pleased to hand over to John Matthews, who's now going to talk us through the slides for 5 Plus in terms of the work that they've now done on the design for Angel Meadow. John.
Thank you, Paul. Morning, everyone. So we were appointed about 12 months ago, and we've been through an extensive consultation process with NOMA, Manchester City Council, our client and development team, Friends of Angel Meadow. It's been a really long and interesting process. We tried to get under the skin of the site, and this site, more than any that we've worked on in Manchester, has got some real historic significance. Angel Meadow was first mentioned in the 1380s of having bridges constructed across the Irk. And in the first city detailed plan of Manchester in 1741, it was detailed as an area where the rich people lived, a latter-day Alderley Edge, but without the planes flying over the top. Then from there, as the industrialisation of Manchester grew and the city centre grew, the gentrification went, the rich people went out to the suburbs, and Angel Meadow was associated with the real depths of the Industrial Revolution and mills and weavers' cottages, highly populated and an appalling place to live. As the industry declined in the 1970s, the slums were cleared, and what we were left with is a lot of car park sites where the slums used to be. And since the 70s, it's been pretty much the same type of area. There was some redevelopment and gentrification in the 1990s, and what we have been asked to do is to deliver the detail around the framework. Detail around the framework a couple of years ago, the SRF from Manchester City Council. So, what a site. As Paul's just explained, it's on the northern fringe of Manchester City Centre. It's bounded by the viaduct, Victorian viaduct that takes you out to Bury, Angel Meadows Park. Interestingly, Angel Meadows has not always been a park. It was a burial ground, and there's some real, obviously, sensitivities around that. There's somewhere between 14 and 20,000 bodies in the meadow buried as paupers' graves. So again, understanding all that kind of sensitivity has led to the proposals that we're going to show today. 4 plots, plots 2, 3 and 4 and 5, all different in scale, different in massing. I'm going to talk today about our design response, which is based around 3 big ideas. Big idea number 1 is to have permeability and create further permeability through the park, get people using the park. And we're going to do that on the southern edge by decluttering the existing Victorian wall and entrance and really showing the authenticity of that 1750s wall and the entrance sequence. Plot 4 at the top of the site is going to be a 41-storey glazed tower, and that podium structure will have a gateway in and out of the site up to Bradley Street and onto the northern gateway itself. The second part of the connection through the site is east-west, and we're going to pick up on the west of the site the existing Victorian steps and create a new connection through the park from plot 5 and actually take people from School Street through the park. The second big idea is to create connections around the site and understand permeability around the site. It would be remiss of us on a scheme of this kind of scale and this importance to not look outside the red line when we're designing the buildings. So the original framework had the buildings plot 2 and 3 adjacent and touching the park. We thought that was bonkers, so what we've done is we've pulled those buildings away and we're going to pedestrianise Irk Street and create a new positive space with maximum active frontage. The mantra really is what I was taught, which is give everything back to the street. So we want to create new streets and let the city come and take over these streets in an organic way. This is a view of the buildings down Irk Street. You see the 1750s wall on the right, and then a reflection of that wall is a new inhabited wall, which takes the form of the podium structure. That's going to be precast concrete, and we're going to imprint into the concrete the same English bond brickwork as the 1750s wall and create this new active, positive streetscape to link through to the northern gateway. One of the most sensitive interventions we're going to make is the area circled here is a place where there's pretty horrible antisocial behaviour goes on there at the moment. And what we want to do is nibble away at the park. We understand it's sensitive, we understand it's not the easiest thing to do politically and socially, but we think it will be worth it. Because if we nibble away at that park, we create a new connection through to Bradley Street, and we also bring into play the viaducts, and we can use those to create activity. So this is a view of this is a pretty dire space at the moment, and we can create active frontages through the viaducts and a new southwest facing steps in a new place. A sense of place, I mean, we talk about sense of place a lot in presentations, but it's an intangible thing. As designers, I don't think we can create a sense of place. What we can do is create the framework for a sense of place to happen organically. And once we've created that framework, it's then up to the city to then do its job and come in and take over. And like I say, organically create these spaces where people hang out, sit and have a brew on the steps and meet a friend. This is the view, the new connection up into the Northern Gateway along the viaduct from the south looking north. The final part of enhancing the streetscape around Angel Meadow is the pedestrianisation of Old Mount Street. Old Mount Street is a bit of a rat run at the moment, so what we want to do is create front doors all the way along this residential building, townhouses at the base, family accommodation in the centre of the city, quite unique. The actual design of Plot 5 is a brick aesthetic, a modern interpretation of the warehouse structures, a grand order and scale across the facade, but with front doors and townhouses and family homes creating the street, and then the park through pedestrianisation is brought right to the front door. The final big idea, you'll notice I've not really talked about the buildings yet. It's all about the neighbourhood, it's all about the place making, it's all about the partnership in terms of designing these things together. But the final big idea is creating a sense of enclosure around the park. We've got 4 buildings, and we've got they're all high density developments, but it's really important that the new buildings work with the old buildings, so the Ragged School, the Victorian Viaduct, and that layer of Victorian engineering and infrastructure, the more recent Noma Angel building and the tobacco factory, working holistically as a series of family of buildings to create an enclosure around the park. If you think about the great urban parks, Central Park coming to mind, they have a sense of enclosure, and that's what we've tried to create around this amazing space. So this is a view from the 15th floor of the 41-storey tower. Every 7 stories we have a setback at Winter Garden level, and this is looking back at the city, and you can see that sense of enclosure that we're trying to create from the park. That's it a little bit more realistically. You can see Plot 5 there with its shorter tower. That shorter tower marks the east-west connection that we're creating through the park. You can see Plot 2 and 3, which are unashamedly modern buildings of a high density and high quality, where the facades look like they've been shrink-wrapped around the buildings, very taut, slick facade system that we're proposing on that particular building. This is a view of the new Irk Street, currently a car park, and it could become this. And again, you'll note, give everything back to the street. It's all about reflecting the authenticity of the existing park setting and the 1750s wall and structure, but with unashamedly modern and positive spaces created between the buildings and between the park. Finally, this is the tower that we've designed. The tower has a dual role. It's a backdrop and a vista to Angel Meadows, but also a gateway to the Northern Gateway. I think we need a better strap line than that, Paul, I think. But it has a dual role. And again, you can see simplicity, elegance. That's what we like to design. It's not about the buildings, it's about the space between the buildings, and it's about creating this new neighbourhood. So, hope you enjoyed those slides, and I'll hand back over to Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Thanks, John. I hope you were inspired by that. I thought that was brilliant, and it's a real encouragement to see where Manchester's heading now in terms of the quality of development. And really important, picked up on the park spaces, because the previous discussion actually picked that up quite clearly. Great that we've got a park to work with and using that so sensitively. So just to finish off, we're here for discussion. We're here very much to promote collaboration. We heard that message again this morning. Please use Manchester Place, please use me, contact the council, and I'm always available, and we will get some of those discussions going between partners. We'll share information we have. The quid pro quo is you need to share some information back with me so we can continue to build up a well planned out plan for the growth of our great city. Thank you.